What's going on, everybody? This is your man Abe-Unit, reporting live from the DMV. But you know what? That's enough for me. On today's episode of the Abe-Unit Show, I have a special guest in the building. We'll start off with a quick intro before we dive too deep into the show. Let's go!
Welcome to the Abe-Unit Show. Time to embark. Let the conversation flow. Faith in Jesus, the guiding force. In every tale, a powerful source. Knowledge drop, inspiring minds. Breaking barriers, the world unwinds. No room for hate, just joy in life. Lifting hearts, taking flight. The Abe-Unit Show answers the call. Empowering all, standing tall. Grab your seat, hold on tight. Together we'll journey into the light.
My name is Isaac, and this is the Abe-Unit Show.
Isaac Sadler, world traveler, cat dad, freedom fighter. We'll get into all of that, but first it is time for the warm-up. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready.
If you could witness any miracle from the Bible firsthand, which one would you choose?
Oh, raising Lazarus from the dead, 100%.
What is your favorite travel destination so far?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I would say Sala in Finland. It's a lake district north in like the center of Finland, and in the summertime all these lakes are connected, and so you can rent a boat and go from like little island to island, kite surf. The water's so cold, so you can take sauna in the boat and then run and jump in the cold water. It's beautiful, man.
That sounds amazing. What is your go-to comfort food?
Mac and cheese.
What's one thing you can't live without?
My pen and paper.
Yeah.
I've got this gold pen, and I bought like 100 refill cartridges. If I lose that, I'm lost.
If you could have dinner with any figure from history, who would it be?
King David.
What unique skill or talent do you have?
Oh, man, I can look at a situation or a person and I can connect the dots between disparate like phenomena that individually have no meaning and form conclusions that produce meaning that are valuable. I can also play the piano.
Okay. That's real. What is your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
I love to go for a walk and listen to music as I'm listening to the lyrics, almost relate it back to my day, imagine the Holy Spirit walking next to me, and then come back, have a cup of tea, and then write about it.
What is a random fun fact about yourself?
I have a cat who's 28 pounds.
I want to get into that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get into that at some point during the show. I'm excited to hear more about that.
Yeah, big chungus, man.
If you could instantly master one skill, what would it be?
Law.
Any specific law?
Probably like estate law.
Estate law.
Yeah, there's like all the boomers are going to be passing away in the next 10 years. And so if I could be a master of estate law, then I could make connections with wealthy people and then pour in tens of $millions into a private foundation. Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
If you do the same thing twice expecting a different outcome, you'll go insane.
What is it? What's something about you that we wouldn't be able to know just by looking at your social media?
Oh, I struggle with fear.
Really?
Yeah, man. I would say that one of the hardest parts about my shadow that people don't see is the cowardice, the unwillingness to face life's challenges and to metaphorically face the dragon. And that's why like my relationship with Jesus has been it's been life-changing, because the opposite of fear is love. And so when people like look at my social media, they get to know me, they think that, oh wow, freedom fighter. But I'm probably the most afraid person. It's just less of me and more of him that allows me to, face those metaphorical dragons.
Isaac, I really just wanted let's dive right into it. I want to talk about your upbringing. I know that you lived in 5 different countries and you've traveled over to like 30 countries. Uh, and that's all by the age of 18, right?
Yeah.
What was it like having to move so much at such a young age?
It didn't really hit me until I was 11. So I was born in Oklahoma, and then when I was 3, we moved to Virginia. And we had very, very good community in Virginia, but I was too young to like miss it. For like my 2 older sisters, it was really hard for them to move. But then from Virginia at age 5.5, we moved to the Netherlands. And really interestingly, um, the military didn't have like a Dutch FAO program for my dad, and so they ended up giving him a bunch of money and saying, "Hey, go to as many countries as you can." So in this like green
Wait,
mini
what's the FAO program?
foreign area officer.
Okay.
Yeah, and he had specialized in Dutch, the language, and so there wasn't really a program for him. So they said, "Here's a budget, go to as many countries," and then yeah, it was me and my 3 sisters learning how to do math, read, write in this green minivan, and we went to over 20 countries in a 10-month period, and then we moved to Naples, Italy, and that was the first time I felt home. We were there for about 4.5 years, and when we left to Rome, I had a really tough time, because it like in my little kid brain, it just didn't make sense. Like, wait, why are we leaving? Like we've got our sports teams,
Naples.
Naples, Italy, yeah. Like we have our church, we have our soccer teams. Like my best friends are here. Why would we leave? Just get a job here. Like leave the military. Just get a job here. And
Yeah.
when we moved to Rome, Italy for 6 months, we were in an apartment. We didn't know anyone, and that was tough, man. I played a ton of video games. I got into RuneScape. I I put in like,
I remember those days.
bro, I put in 56 days of playing time. I got my 99 wood cutting. I got 99 fishing, fletching. Um, and then when we moved to Brussels, I was 12 to 16, and that was like home 2.0. That was another time where in adolescence, a really good church. There was an American school close by, so I did sports there. I was involved in the youth group, and Brussels is like smack dab in the center of Europe. So I would go to Amsterdam, go to Paris, um, and when we left Brussels to go to the UK for my last 2 years of high school, that was just like reopening the same wound. It was like, but at this time I was older.
All that trauma. Yeah.
All that trauma, man. But now I'm older, so it's kind of like I understand it. And then at that point, it's like, oh, I'm 16, I can drink. So I'm like, oh, now I can like, if I have 4 beers, I'm not so sad anymore. Now I'm
Wow.
bad. But when we moved to England, I kind of just like compartmentalized it. We lived in this little town called Cheltenham in Gloucestershire in the Cotswolds, and I had finished high school a year early, and I just kind of embraced it. Like, okay, I'm this cosmopolitan world traveler. I don't really have a home. I'm going to go to university in America. You know what? Like, I meet a lot of people who don't know how to interact with new people, and they don't know how to like bring people in and get to know them. I have this kind of skill that developed to get to know people very quickly. And when I was like 17 and I started to go visit my friends in Oxford and go to London, I almost kind of like, you know what, okay, I like this. I could see myself like traveling, and this is really cool. I'm very unique and different. Um, and so when I was 17, I kind of like stopped, not blaming my parents, but I stopped kind of like, I don't know, wishing for something different. It was like, hey, these are the cards I was dealt. Some people live in the same town, the same house their whole life, and they envy me.
Yeah.
I never envied.
Did your parents understand the struggle that you felt like you were facing at the time?
Kind of. My
Were
dad.
you able to communicate that with them?
I don't remember. To be honest with you, bro.
Yeah.
I do remember though that like my dad was very non-emotional. I remember when we were
Mm.
a kid.
Military guy.
Oh yeah, like when we were leaving, because his childhood's even crazier. Like he ran away from home at 16,
Mm.
because his dad was beating on him. So he's like, anything but that. Um, and so I remember when I was a kid, we're like, why do we have to move? He's like, this is a zero defect mission, son. The objective is to get from point A to point B. When you get to point B, we're going to establish community. We're going to find a church. It's going to be okay. And I'm like, but my mom was a huge support. My mom was very emotional, empathetic. She understood. But um, we actually talked a lot about it in my mid 20s, like 24, 25. One of my
Just going back down memory lane.
Yeah, like we were downsizing when we were moving or they were moving from the Netherlands to Germany, and going through photos and just kind of like they had matured a lot as parents, and they didn't, oh, we're so sorry it happened. It's more so like, hey, how do we like take this and use it as judo and turn it in for a way for God to be glorified through, you know, our life.
Right.
But all in all, I'm really blessed. I wouldn't have it any other way. It made me who I am.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, just to touch on that, how would you say that it's influenced the way that you view the world? Because you do have all these multicultural, multi countries lens that you get to look at the world through.
Yeah, I see like humankind as almost homogenous. I don't think it's like,
Mhm.
oh, that's like English people, that's Ethiopian people, that's Kenyan people. Um, my best friend in high school is from Kenya, and he lived with us for a year. My best friend in England was Nigerian. He lived with us for 6 months. My first girlfriend was from Finland, and um, I just I just realized that at the end of the day, like no matter where you're from, what color you are, or what gender you are, we all have the same needs deep down to be seen, heard, and understood. And
Yeah.
where we come from and who we are actually like shapes how we receive it, how we give that, how we experience it. And there I I don't see people as like different. I see them as unique. Um,
Mm.
and I think that allows me to like see people for who they are behind what you can see. And also like that's how
Yeah.
you get to know someone really quickly, is to get past the perceptions, to get past the physical and get down to, what do you dream about? What do you cry about? What do you jump for joy about? Like who hurt you, bro?
Yeah. Um, I want to fast forward a little bit to your, I guess, post teen and you going to school, and actually you made a decision to drop out of school in
Yeah,
2019 to manage and help market a hip hop artist.
yeah,
The Genius 30.
yeah.
What led you to take that leap, and what did that experience teach you?
Oh man, well, my life got knocked into a completely different path. And I've always wrestled if it was for good or for bad, because I was very like academically, like I don't know if smart is the right word. It's just like my brain is analytical. So um, I wanted to be a
It
pediatrician.
came easy for you.
Yeah, some things, not all things. But I wanted to become a pediatrician. AP chemistry in high school is hard, but in college, very long story short, um, I ended up selling a ton of weed in college, and to the point where like I had to leave the state. So I I
Because wait, why did you have to leave the state?
well, because the DEA was getting involved, man.
Oh wow, okay, that much weed.
We were shipping 20, 30 pounds every other week from California, and by the grace of God, bro, I don't know how. Anyways, that that peak lasted maybe 2 months, and then when one of our guys in a different school in Illinois, the DEA got a court order for his Snapchat, and he
Oh wow.
busted. And so my business partner at the time had like 3 houses, and I just left my stuff and took a one-way ticket to France, joined a bachelor program there, and
No extradition laws?
well, the thing is that we used, we used cryptocurrency, we used Signal,
So this was like a heavily organized
oh yeah,
crime.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because it started off as like it was weird, man. When I went to college, I wasn't American and I wasn't like international. So I was kind of like, and I went there to play soccer, so that was kind of like my identity, but I didn't fit in with the soccer team. So
Mm.
my first semester freshman year was just kind of like where do I fit in? And one of my friends in a fraternity would invite me to their parties, and I met these 2 girls there, and one of them happened to be the campus weed dealer. And there were a bunch of different people at the time who would just, serve here, here, here. She ended up getting kicked off the second semester of my freshman year. And then that summer, I interned at an insurance company selling insurance. So I was learning how to prospect. Like the internship was basically make a list of like 100 people, get 3 people from them, and then 3 people from them, and learn how to network market to sell insurance. And I was like, why don't I just do that with cannabis? Because there's no unification. The quality varies, and there's different pockets. And again, multicultural. There's the football people, there's the theater kids, there's the international kids, and the whole weed selling thing was just like dingy and gross. And so I started making these little boxes. Like I used reusable tea boxes, and I put like gift wrap paper, and I put candies, and there was a reward system. So if you bought 4, you get the 5th one off. And so we started to create like this unique experience. And I purposely paid more money to buy like nice strains from different like landrace seeds from South Africa. Then we would have like stuff from California, and we had different tiers. And so then it got to the point as a sophomore where the people, they wanted more. And instead of me doing it, we had 4 fraternities who would use the same system, and I had a piece of paper showing them how to package it. And then it just kept doom, 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 and then other schools, it kept growing. And so that's why I say it knocked me into a different life, because for better or for worse, I was good at it. And it's interesting how I said like fear was something that people don't realize a lot.
That sounds very fearless.
Well, the thing is that like I realized that, and this is another thing a mentor told me, is that unless you give someone a reason to, typically people assume the best. Especially when you're a young kid who dresses like they're from England. I would wear chinos, I would wear a bag, or button-ups and blazers. I would put like a half-pound of weed in my briefcase and go say hi to the dean.
Mm.
And then one of the guys I had given free weed to, Rob, he can attest to this. He was a cool dude, and I wasn't cool, so I gave him free weed to hang out with me. And so he was dropping a project and was going to sign with a record label, and so I thought to myself, why would someone choose to listen to him versus someone else? Like, that's interesting. And his music's really good, and it's God-fearing music. So if I could, yeah, man, maybe I'll do that. And I thought to myself, that would be worthwhile if I could show the world why Genius 30 mattered and get people to pay attention and listen to him, then that's significant. And there's a whole backstory to that too, but that whole thing in college knocked me off on that entrepreneurial path, whether for good or bad. And then Genius 30 was kind of like that focus to then pursue and study music management and all that stuff. There was a point in the spring of 2023 where I started to realize that, like, is this God's will? Like, I'm placing so much emphasis on me, make a plan, take control. And God really humbled me. And he's like, sure, buddy, make your action plan. Okay, like go for it, you died to self, and now you're trying to use self to build up riches that, rust and moth destroy. Um, you answered all these questions and you got really great insight, but you never really spent time with me. But the biggest challenge was surrendering to how God wanted to use me versus how I wanted to use the gifts that God gave me. And
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really interesting that you brought up, because I think as Christians, we'll read the verses. God says, I will bless the works of your hand, right? So as long as it's in His will, I feel confident enough to go out and pursue whatever it is that I want. He'll bless it. But then there's also that second gear when, God, what are you telling me to do?
yes,
Am I spending enough time with you right now to why even go out and have all the headaches and trial and errors when I could just spend a little bit of time in the prayer closet,
yep,
right? And get the guidance. So I think that's what you're touching on.
yeah, and what I failed to do is have like loops, like um, because I didn't have intimacy with my relationship with Jesus. My relationship with God was kind of like a general, like let me wake up, pray, get the marching orders, and then go on my own. So
Like a checklist.
I've got to do my affirmations. I've got to go do my cold calls. Me. And like, if you operate in the structures of the world, sure, you can do that. But like, I'm a born again believer. Like, I'm baptized in the blood of Jesus. And so it was this kind of like one foot in this like entrepreneurship world where God is just like a indifferent being who will manifest whatever positive belief and you focus on. And I had one foot in where it's like, hey, there's a story going on, and God desires to use you in a way that you might not even understand. And that's the true joy of life. But then, oh, I've got to pay my bills, so I've got to do this. So it was like this, the challenge was like, what's the balance between like knowledge of business and entrepreneurship and just developing and improving one's body, mind, and heart? And then, but then also too, we are spiritual beings. Like we don't belong here. We're literally just passing by. So I'm still grappling with that. Um, and then also too, like, with the business side of things, it's like, is it is it right to sell knowledge when it should be accessible to people? I'm in a season, bro, of kind of figuring out like how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible. I feel like we're getting a real time like processing of what's going on in your mind. And I think that's
Literally.
a very unique thing. A lot of the times you see things after the fact. Oh, this is what I've experienced. So like you get the hindsight. You won the ultimate victory. It's your name being written in the book of life. So everything else is just it's a bonus.
That's true. But then at the same time, man, like when it comes to stewardship, like I overdosed in 2020. So it's like I got a second chance at life.
That was going to be actually. I'm glad you went right into that. I wanted to ask you about that specific. You said you died twice.
Yeah, my heart stopped and it was like flat for, some time.
What happened? Can you talk a little bit about that? What actually happened during that time, and has that changed your perspective on anything since? Because a lot of the times, whenever people experience something that traumatic,
Yeah,
it's a 360, like a 180 on their entire outlook and how they continue on with life.
100%. But it didn't start that night. Remember Teen Street? I told you about Teen Street.
Yep.
One of the nights, we were sitting in Jonah, and so in the throne room, I prayed and I asked God, and I was by myself. I wasn't with my group. I asked God, like, what's my mission? Like Jonah was running away from going to Nineveh. Like, what's my Nineveh? Um, and I still had that childlike faith, and so I prayed and I asked God, show me just a piece of like my life. And I closed my eyes, ready for it, and like music stopped playing in my ears, and it was like an out of body experience where I'm walking up a path to these gates and like open, and I walk in this courtyard that goes off for like infinity in the directions, and I'm just walking up, and the three thrones appear, and then it switches from a POV to a bird's eye view, and now I'm looking at myself, kind of like looking around, and I just watch myself say like, "Hello," like I'm here, and then I hear the voice that says, "What are you doing here?" Not in a judgmental way, but just a very like, "What are you doing here, man?" And I'm like, and I'm watching myself, kind of like confused, like, well, I'm a believer. I'm just saying, like, I loved you, man. I confess, like, I was baptized as a kid. Like, I guess I'm here to spend eternity with you. And there was a pause, and the voice is like, go back and fulfill what I created you to do.
Wow.
And so I watch myself walk out, and the gates close, and the gates open again, and I see myself coming in, and there's a ton of people with me. And so I open my eyes, and I don't know how much time passed because all the music stopped playing. A lot of the people left the auditorium. And so that night I was like, okay, I think that is leadership. I think God wants me to be a leader. Okay. And I was like in the Boy Scouts at the time. Like I'm an Eagle Scout. I served with the homeless ministry. I did stuff with youth groups. So I kind of like had some influencing skills. But the night that I overdosed, the Omni Partners, that software that we had licensed, like it didn't work. I totally
Yeah.
got like scammed, and um, I knew that I couldn't sell something that didn't work. And it's not like I have a degree to fall back on. It's not like I have a product to sell. And I was really beat down because, bro, I had worked so hard at that barbecue restaurant during the summer with gloves and a mask on. I cold called so many people. No one believed in me. My business partner left me. My girlfriend at the time left me. And that was it. That was what I had. And it was fake. And I felt fake. And so there was this pit in my stomach of just despair and like hopelessness. Like there is no way
Mm.
out. I'm effed like completely, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to call, and so I just wanted the feeling to go away. I go to this Thai restaurant across the street in Pentagon City that is no longer there, but Jamboree, my friend, used to own it, and I had like 3 shots of Jameson. Nothing changed, and so I'm just like, oh, and by the way, I had no money. So like I had $15 cash, a quarter tank of gas, and rent was due in 3 days. So Jan-
Did you ever feel like you can reach out to your parents for financial assistance, or were you determined to make it on your own?
it wasn't even about making it on my own. It was just about like my parents, like my dad he's a single income. He like my
Mm.
grandparents left us nothing, and he sent 4 kids to college. So like
Mm.
sure he could probably cover rent for a month, and he ended up covering my rent in January and then giving me like a couple $100 to kind of like get me going. But I I didn't call them because what could they do? Their
You didn't want to put that stress on.
and not even just put stress on them, but like their solution isn't. It's like think about if you have an American plug, or you have a UK socket. It's like the only solution they know to do is go back to school, finish your degree, get a job, get stability. But I'm like, no, I need to like find a product or service, and I need to sell the crap out of this because I got rent due. Um, so I just felt like I had also helpless, like, um, and I didn't call anybody. I was just like, let me just get, let me just make this feeling go away. I'm gonna wake up in the morning, we'll figure it out. And now I'm going to the prayer closet, but like back then, I didn't have that, spiritual understanding, knowledge. the foundation. I didn't know how to like rebuke the devil. I didn't know how to, go and speak in tongues and like declare and decree. I didn't know how to do that. And so the Koch boys, it's a long story, but we parted ways, and I told them not to answer my calls. And anyways, there was a dishwasher, a guy who worked the dishwasher, and I hit him up because we used to pop like Percocet, like 10 milligrams with a shot and just have fun. And I hit him up. I was like, hey man, like, do you have like a painkiller or something? Like, I'm like going through it. And he's like, yeah, I've got a Perk 30 for you. I'm like, well, I only have $15. He's like, yeah, that's fine. And so I don't even think twice. I just drive over to Clarendon to smoke craft barbecue in Pine Moor. The bar is no longer there. And I take this pill. I go over to the other bar and I walk in, and Lenny, the bartender, is behind the bar. And she looks at me and she's like, whoa, like, are you okay, man? Like, you don't look very good. And I was like, Lenny, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to crush this, this perk, and I'm going to come back. And she's like, that does not sound like a good idea. Like, please don't do that. And I was like, I'm going to do it. So that probably saved my life, because when she called, they knew what I had taken. So that's very good. But yeah, I went to the bathroom and crushed it up, snorted the whole thing all at once. And I come out of the bathroom and that feeling like when you worship and you're in church and you're just in the zone, like you're really in God's presence and you just feel it and you're crying. I feel like, opiates are the only other way to get that, like a synthetic, cheap, fake version. And so the warm and fuzzies came. I'm good, bro. I'm hopeful. I'm like, I'm gonna have my beer, drive home, go to bed. And all of a sudden, like the curtains start closing, like in my view, like the curtains start closing. I'm like, I've been up for a couple of days doing a bender. Like I know what it's like to start to get like you're losing it. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go outside and have a cigarette. And the curtains keep closing, and it's to the point where I put a cigarette out on me, and I'm like, I didn't even know what was happening. I was like, I just don't want to pass out at this bar. I gotta get home, man. And so I go back into the bar and lights out. And I just wake up in an ambulance.
That's the last thing you remember.
It's the last thing I remember. I remember walking to the bar to grab a hold of something, and then I wake up in an ambulance. No out of body experience, no like teleporting. I remember waking up in the ambulance and stressing that they cut my favorite sweater. They'd cut my favorite sweater off and put stuff all over me. And I woke up and they were like, whoa, dude, like, like, you're alive, man. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, that is my favorite sweater.
Paramedics are joking around with you.
Yeah, the out of body experience happened the next day. Like when I woke up, I felt like trash. And remember, the problem is still there. I've got rent to pay. I don't have a business. I have nothing. And so I'm walking back to my apartment. No one knows what happened. It's just me and God. And this is weird about my faith, bro. I would still I know about God and I'm very close when I pray, but then I don't go to him to solve problems. It's weird. It's like it wasn't a personal relationship. But that morning I was walking back home and I asked God, okay, live properly. I'm going to dedicate my life to really learn, like, how do we live properly? Like with all these outlets for drugs, porn, social media, junk food, like to really live properly. Like, A, what does that mean? And then how do we do it in a 21st century kind of context? So that's going to be my focus. But then I was like, okay, that's cool. But like, what do I do? Like, what do I do with my life? Like, I need direction. And that's when I heard a voice, and it was, you have a gift.
Yeah.
And then my second point was, okay, I need to figure out what my gift is. And the way that I like to describe a gift is a focused like a focused giving of a unique connection between your abilities, talents, spiritual gifts, personality traits, what you think the world needs, and some other questions, um, to either meet a need or solve a problem. People pay you to solve problems. People will support you if you have a mission to meet a need. So I was like, I need to discover my gift. I need to figure out who Isaac is. And then the third point was motivate and encourage others like you to do the same. There's a lot of young people who feel hopeless, helpless, and powerless. So that day I was like, okay, I'm going to study wisdom on how to live properly. I'm going to figure out what my gift is, and I'm going to motivate and encourage myself right now. And I have like 32 gigabytes of audio of me just talking to myself, like motivating and talking to myself. Um, if I could do it again, bro, like with being at CJC and what an incredible ministry that is, like if I would have known some of the things that I've learned, being like under the headship of, Prophet Joseph and Minister Manny, I would have done things very differently. I wouldn't have talked out loud so much. I'm not here as a guru. I'm just saying what I did. But now that I have more spiritual maturity and understanding, um, I can kind of fuse the two. But that's the three, because I really do think, like you asked what perspective changed from that experience of dying. Like I literally, I'm not here in this world, man. Like I'm going home. And while I'm here, I'm bringing souls with me. And so
Right.
who Isaac is, because of my background moving around a lot, that issue of identity and who you are is the definite chief aim of what I'm about, whether that's professionally, personally. It's always about identity, anchored with a spiritual gift of exhortation. Um, Secondly is freedom, is like living properly. True freedom, as Paul says, is doing the things that your spirit wants to do. True freedom is being able to say no to like what your flesh wants you to do. We have to surrender. So it's like that experience really changed about how I think about like my life instead of like my business. It's like I'm just a tool, you know. And the sanctification that I've been experiencing has been surrender, because like letting go of control of that pride of like my life and what I want to do and or it should look this way, or like it would be best if I would be used this way. Like I should be fundraising right now versus helping this lady completely gut out her house. And I'm just learning how to like not live my life for power, position, or prosperity, but truly like if one soul is more valuable than the whole world and God is developing a ministry within me and I have a calling with this focus, then the point I'm at now is what's that balance between like taking charge and leading and directing, but then also what's the balance of okay, letting God take control and ebbing and flowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So now there are two questions that I want to quickly ask you. I know we're running short on time. If you can get through these for me before I let you go.
Yeah.
One is you've had some pretty unique experiences along the way. One of them accidentally or unintentionally getting involved with the Nigerian Mafia in Cape Town. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Bro, okay, so it was a school trip. So I took an African politics class in college. And in my university, May was a term where you would do a class on campus or go overseas. And my African politics professor, Professor Monroe, hadn't done a trip in like a couple of years. I connected the dots and was like, if I could get a school trip to South Africa, I could get seeds like, Durban poison or like Swazi weed seeds, send it to my guy in California and make my own weed strain and then start a weed business. So I was like, I told Professor Monroe that like if I got enough people to sign up, would he organize the trip? And he said yes. And then I said, if I get everyone to pay in full and this trip happens, I'm not required to do any work and you just give me a C plus. And he was like, as long as you attend like our group discussions. And I was like, fair enough. But
That's quite the offer. That's a very bold offer too.
well, because I would go and hang out and talk with him. So like I would
Okay.
smoke weed.
You guys had a relationship. Yeah.
We did, yeah. And like, because he didn't want to be in Illinois. He was like a war journalist in Zimbabwe. This guy probably had some major PTSD. The skinny white dude, and he was literally just chilling, man. Like yeah. And so I got everyone to sign up, and we were going to go research the water crisis. So we go to Cape Town, and I don't know where to even start to try to find like seeds. There's different tiers. There's like the tourist stuff, and there's like the business stuff, and then there's like the stuff that like you got to know a guy who knows a guy. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna walk around, and I have an eye for these people. I can kind of intuitively pick up who's what. And my friend Ethan Pogge, and he's the most, not the most, but he's a very typical like Wonder Bread white guy, like baseball cap on, got the sweatshirt zip up. Hey man, nice to meet you. How's it going? And he wasn't very like suave. I had a tattered shirt with a leather jacket, black boots, chain. I'm like trying to fit in a little bit. And he comes with me, and I'm like, hey man, I'm just gonna be wandering, as long as you're cool with this. And he's like, yeah man, this is fun. Like I've never done this before. So I'm like, okay. So we start walking around, and we walk for like 2.5 hours, and I don't see anything. And we finally kind of give up, and we're heading back to the hotel. And this guy is walking towards us down the street, and I make eye contact with him and nod and look away, and I can feel him turn to face us. And I kind of whispered to like Ethan, like, just keep walking. So we keep walking, and then I hear like, hey, like you guys like cheese? And I keep walking, and Ethan turns around, and he's like, what's that? And I'm like, Ethan, like, keep walking, bro. Because it was dark at this point. It was nighttime,
You knew what was happening.
Yeah, and I was like, Ethan. And then Tochu, I turn and I see Tochu coming. He's like, yeah, you like cheese, man? And Ethan's like, what's cheese? And I'm like, so I turn around, and I'm like, hey, no cheese, we're good. Ethan, let's go. And I don't want to turn my back to this dude, so I'm like walking behind, and he's like, cheese, like you guys like cheese? And I'm like, what? And Ethan's like, oh, like weed? And this dude is like, yeah, like weed, man. And so I go to him, and I'm like, are you just saying that because we look like we're tourists? And he's like, no, I just had like this feeling, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, well, hey, listen, man, if you actually do have cheese, we were walking around, and we were, looking for some. And he's like, okay, yeah. But it's a far walk away. And I'm like, listen, man, we're kind of hungry. We were just going to go to the hotel. We can link up tomorrow. And he's like, oh, like, let's go get food. So we go to this restaurant, like up the street to the right. And this guy walks in, and people treat him like a celebrity. Like he goes up, he's like high-fiving people. He's like pointing at the stuff that he wants. And he's like points at the table, and we go and sit down. And I'm starting to like I'm trying to figure out this guy, like, who is he? He's not like dressed super well, but he's not dressed super bad. I didn't get like threatening vibes from him. I didn't get like a sense that he wanted to take advantage of us. And we start talking, and the food comes over, and within 5 minutes, it's very clear that this guy's super smart, and we start talking about everything, man. And he like takes some food to like the street kids outside. He comes back in, and I'm like sold. I'm like, I trust this guy a little bit. And Ethan's like, I want to go home. This is weird. Like, how does he know these people?
Ethan's not about that life. Yeah.
No. And Ethan's like, it's almost like 11. Like, we have our discussion in the morning. We need to get back. We need to work on, the paper. And I'm like, Ethan, like, I'm going with this guy because he looks like he has the answers. And Ethan's like, okay, but then we have to go home. I'm like, you can go home now, man. And he's like, no. I'm like, I'm with the journey. And so we follow Tochu, like for 20 minutes, and we're walking behind him, and we turn left, and there's like like one block over on the right, there's like this dark building and then two like convenience stores and a bunch of people outside them. And so as we're getting closer, they recognize Tochu or Tochukua, and they say hi and they come over. And then Tochu doesn't introduce us to other people. He just signals that there's one really tall dude to come over whose name was JP. And they say something to Tochu, says something to JP. JP stands with us and is like talking in broken English, like basketball, LeBron James, LeBron James. And Ethan's like, okay, yeah, sure, buddy. Like, and I'm looking around like, this is awesome. And Tochu like goes up to like the bar or whatever. It was a bar, but we didn't know it at the time. And he goes up and we're just waiting out there. And then other dudes start coming over and just try to like touch Ethan. Like, you know, this guy's like a, what kind of creature is this? And Ethan starts to get spooked. And all of a sudden, Ethan just bolts. Like, I'm talking, just takes off. Like, he's just like, poof. And so someone says something, I don't know if it was Yoruba or what language they were speaking. And so JP starts running after Ethan. And Ethan like looks behind him and sees this super tall dude running towards him, and he just takes off. So now I'm
with the Jets on.
Yeah. So now I'm just there, and Tochu comes back. He's like, you know, where's the tall white boy? And I'm like, oh, I guess he got scared. He ran away. And you know, we go behind like the bar, and I look at it, and it's good. And I asked him if he had like some of the seeds, so he goes back. And then I said, well, hey, listen, man, like, I mean, I could walk back to the hotel, but you know, it seems like you have an interesting life. Would you want to like smoke a joint with me? And he's like, okay. So we go over and we sit down, and I start asking about his life story. Turns out he and his family walked from Nigeria all the way to South Africa. Got stopped in the Congo, and like these people killed his parents, and he's got this massive scar on his neck because the machete like hit, and crazy story. And then a cop pulled up, and so I like went to run away, and Tochi's like, no, chill. So he gets up, goes to the cop car, pulls something out of his gums, gives it to the guy, and long story short, this guy was like a big heroin dealer. And
Wow.
And we just hung out all the time. Because we talked for like an hour outside of this bar about like his daughters, about my life. And he's like, I don't have anyone to talk to. This is really nice. And
that was a therapy session for him.
Low key, bro. And so then I was in, man. The next day I came back over to the block because South Africa is interesting. It's not racist, it's xenophobic. So it's like there's the Nigerian hood, the Zimbabwe hood, and you don't cross over. And I just spent the next 5 days with these guys. I almost went to jail. I had to hide in a Holiday Inn bathroom. But yeah, man, when I left, we had a big party at this like pool bar. We took pictures. I had no idea how to stay in touch with him, but he connected me with his uncle in Durban, which is how I got seeds. So crazy story, man.
Wow.
Anarua. If you're out there, if you see this, man, I love you, bro. He taught me a lot of game. He introduced me to, I would say, one of the most beautiful girls in my life. And it was just so interesting to be around like straight killers and feel very comfortable. Yeah, because these dudes were like, I mean, Tochu was like a leader, so he was very like, you know, he had done some self-education, but some of his hombres were like pretty sketchy looking dudes. So I got involved with the Nigerian Mafia in Cape Town.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. And I know probably now in retrospect, you're like the protection of the Holy Spirit, because you had no business being and surviving and making it out of that situation.
Yeah, no, and there's two other like caveats of stories of like, you know, someone getting stabbed right next to bro. Like, this is not Isaac the suave persuader. This is Isaac's a fool, and God cared about him enough to have a plan for his life.
Yeah. That's incredible, man. The other thing I wanted to touch on was your cat. A 28-pound cat, Chungus. Talk to me about Chungus and What is it like having such a huge cat? And where is this cat now?
The cat is in Germany. So
Okay.
he's living his best life in this apartment overlooking the city. He attacks people. So whenever we have parties, we have to block him up. He's got about 8 bodies. He's attacked 8 people.
This is like a little mini lion.
Yes. He's a Chartreux, so like a Russian blue. He's a hunter. He loves to hunt, but he's too fat to like hunt anything. So
Okay.
when I'm home and I play with him, he just rolls on his belly and he like hits things in the air. He's too fat to like lick certain parts of himself, so he needs a lot of belly rubs. Bro, it's kind of gross, man. Honestly, it's kind of gross. His name is Earl Grey.
Earl Grey.
Big Chungus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. I really appreciate you sharing that. Do you have an estimate of how much money you spend a month feeding Chungus?
How much money I spend feeding Chungus? He's actually on a diet right now. He's got an automated food dispenser.
Okay.
And I don't know, man. My parents took over that responsibility.
Okay.
I had to. Yeah, when he was in DC and then they moved to the Netherlands, he went with them because I was pursuing my entrepreneurial whatever that was, and I couldn't provide for Chungus. So my parents have been providing and protecting Big Chungus for about 4 years now. God bless.
Yeah. Did he eat his way to that weight, or was it more genetics?
He was bullied a lot when he was a kid. We had female cats. He used to beat the crap out of him at night. So I think he stress ate. There's probably some thyroid stuff going on, but the vet says like there aren't any physiological problems. Like there's no tumors. There's no like. He has one fat pocket, but they say that it's not bad. Keep him on a diet. Play with him a little bit, and he's good. Yeah.
He should be cool. No, I appreciate you, Isaac. Thank you for spending this hour and sharing your testimony. This is an incredible journey that we've been blessed to hear, and I know a lot of people will be set free by your testimony and just the journey that that you've taken to get up until this point. But before we get out of here, is there anything else that you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, I shared a lot of stories about like I think things the world would see as like cool and exciting. I think it's cool and exciting of how God can be glorified through that. If I could get something off my chest, it's that like at any moment, and I think it's crazy to me that at any moment, any person can stop and say, okay, God, use me. And then literally every bad thing, good thing, okay thing, who they are, how trauma's affected their brain, how some PTSD has affected their emotions. God can take that and mold something beautiful and direct it to contribute towards his plan of the story that he's writing. And so I just think it's really beautiful, man, that anyone who's listening to this, at any moment, you can stop and say, Heavenly Father, like, I want to be a part of the story of the world that you're writing and build up an eternal ROI in heaven, and then go on a journey of discovering how he wired you, how life has shaped you. And then instead of what I did, which is 2 years of just writing and recording, you now can go and bring it to the Lord, and the Holy Spirit can give you revelation and discernment. And then also doing that in community with wise counsel. I don't think that there's anything cool about being a vagabond drug dealer, but I think what's cool about it is to get to a point of brokenness so that I can like learn what real love is, man. I can't wait to have a woman to love on, because like the love that Jesus showed me, if I could give that to a woman just a little bit, I can't wait to see her shine, man.
That's amazing. How's your relationship with Jesus now? And one advice that you have for people beginning in their faith journey?
Yeah, I think number one, my relationship with Jesus, I let him down a lot, but he's bro, he's everything, man. He's my business partner. He's like he's my lover. He's my support. He's my like teacher. There's only like, I mean, I do everything with him. I just imagine there's someone next to me. Um, and then what was the second question?
One advice that you have for somebody beginning on their faith journey,
Oh yeah,
or
practice.
maybe if they backslidden.
Yeah, practice like using your imagination. Like Jesus was a real person, and the Holy Spirit, like there's a spiritual realm that you can't see, but it's very real. And so that's a sobering reality too. Like when it talks about like when you've backslidden, bro, the Holy Spirit, the most pure, beautiful, powerful being, is there in the room with you. And so like that can cause shame, or it can cause you to yield and surrender. I think that like we're called to be as God's children, and children love to imagine and play and create. But there's a lot of things in life that really kind of choke the life of our imaginative faculties. And it's not new age spirituality, visualization, mumbo jumbo. It's a very real therapeutic exercise of breath work, of solitude, of learning how to, create. Like God, we're made in his image. He's a creator. He thought of something and spoke it into existence. We can think of things too. And I just love to imagine Jesus. Yeah, that's my advice.
That's beautiful. Isaac Sadler, really appreciate your time, my brother.
Thank you, Abe.